Hello there, I'm Rafael back at it again on another Friday night for another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter. Well, this week I'm getting started in a little bit of a different place, just to show you another side of Braga, because I know there are some of you who are interested in seeing, by the way, this is a supermarket over here, but I know some of you are interested in seeing some of the areas that are more residential and not quite so, I guess you could say, touristy. But one of the reasons why I generally focus on some of the areas that tend to be a little bit more central and not the places that are really out of that area is because the central areas in the city have residential parts of them attached to them. This is also a hospital right behind me where I'm walking right now. But in Braga, within these centralized zones, I guess you could call them, you do have residential areas that are very close. And so even though this is a hospital right where I am right now, I want to show how quick it is from some of this area here where you actually have apartments like just behind here or even down this road here. We're basically already in the center. We're in the center itself. We're not having to go far. I mean, even if you go down that way, we've gone down to Avenida da Liberdade. You know what, let's just go there now. Why not? This is just to show you a little sense of what Braga looks like in the evening, because Braga, beautiful during the day, but especially for people who are thinking about moving to a city like this, being able to get an idea of what it looks like at night, I think is very valuable. I'm not going into some of the areas that will be a little further out from the center, but even if you're thinking about just visiting Braga, it'll be fun to see. So this is a Thursday regular night. This is not the main central part right here. So seeing it so quiet like this, don't be concerned if you're thinking, oh, it's such a boring little place. It's quiet and it stays quiet and it gets very quiet. But there are parts that I don't know what it's going to be like tonight, because it started cooling off a little bit already, but it's still definitely summertime. We're in the latter part of summer now. So there are some people who should be out on a Thursday night. I would be very surprised if there weren't some people walking around having dinner, drinks in the center. It's currently probably close to 9 o'clock, 8:57 on the dot right now. And so at this lower part of the pedestrian area of Avenida da Liberdade, you guys have seen me walk here before in some of my previous videos. I mean, here you have some shops. I mean, this is a local internet company. Actually here, if you like acai and you like other different sorbets, definitely worth checking out. I don't frequent that place so much. However, I can recommend it. And as you've seen in some of my other videos from this area, it gets down to this part where it splits from just pedestrian to cars and pedestrian. You can walk down. It goes quite a bit of ways down there. I actually have a video where I walked all the way from back there all the way up here to the bus station. And so now that we're on the pedestrian part of the street, you can see there's people out. It's nice. It's fun. I actually could roll up my sleeves. It's a little warm, even though it has cooled down considerably. I mean, it did get very, very hot this summer. And for those who do have concerns about pollen, there's still actually a fair amount of pollen, even though it's no longer springtime. Another aspect of living in Braga is that the stores don't necessarily close so early here, but they don't stay open all that late. You will find, like, a lot of these stores here, like for example Zara across the way, or even this store here called Viva. They have like some home goods stores, or this one called Pakistan. They have things that are like here, Viva Home Goods, Pakistan Rugs, and then Zara. They often do stay open, but maybe 7, 8, something like that. So you're not going to have late night shopping available here, but if you do want to have some shopping available to you a drop later, but again, not all that much later, maybe let's say about 9 o'clock or so, you'd have to go to the mall, Braga Park. And even as we get up to kind of the main part of this walking pedestrian area here in the town, where you do have some more shops, a lot of them are going to be closed. You will have restaurants and cafes open. Golden Arches is still definitely open, but it does get pretty quiet. In this area, it's still very peaceful. and it does get sleepy here. Although actually, now that I do think about it, at the theater down the way here, where we already came up from, they do actually have shows that will go pretty late, or they'll have intermissions where people are standing out pretty late in the evening. But if you are looking for a place where you want to grab a late dinner or a drink, you have plenty of options, and they're actually mostly down in this direction. But just for now, to show something completely different, I'm gonna come back down this direction in just a minute. Another central point of reference for a lot of the videos that I've recorded here in Braga, Cafe Brasileira is a kind of good reference point in my opinion, because it's like right smack dab in the center of everything. And then down there, for those of you who've seen my video that I recorded at 43 San Marco, might be hard to see from here, but the purple light. But we're going to go up around here to go a little bit of a different direction, to just get a little bit of a taste of another kind of busy spot within the center before we kind of make our way away from this area. Normally during the day, this fountain will be turned on, and then when it comes to Christmas time, it might actually be hard to see, I don't know, but I won't see this footage until later. But during Christmas time, they actually put a huge Christmas tree here. It's really festive, really fun. People go there for their selfie opportunities. And over here, we've got some restaurants, cafes, where you can come get some dinner, some dessert, some coffee. We've got plenty of options, although these places in particular might not necessarily be among my recommendations. The prices tend to be a little bit more on the touristy side, but if you do go back to Cafe Viana, you can get a very reasonably priced coffee sometimes. At least if we're talking about European city life, I'm not talking about necessarily tourism, but this is the area where you do find the more touristy prices. For those of you who remember the video where I walked up from the train station, you just continue up that direction. But today we're going to be going down here. This is also the same way for those of you who've seen the mentions that I've had about the Italian gelateria. You go just straight down this way, and it will be on your left-hand side after you pass by the Activo Bank. But again, you do have some people out. It's not like completely quiet and completely nobody. Actually, this place over here can get really busy, especially like on the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and they've got very reasonable pricing for just drinks, like simple things like beer, iced tea, water. You know what? We'll go down here so that you guys can see the places that I've walked by in a bunch of different episodes, to see them at night and to be able to compare and contrast. And you can watch this video and go check out the others that I've recorded. I'll include a playlist up in one of the corners of the screen, and then also at the end card. And if I remember, fingers crossed, I'll also try to put it down in the comment section below here on YouTube. Over here during the day, you've got a couple little coffee places that open up their seats. And instead of continuing down to the gelateria, it feels very sad to do, and I feel like I'm almost committing a sin here by not going to go get some gelato at this time of night during the summer. I must continue on to record this video. Sometimes you just have to make some sacrifices. You gotta do what you gotta do. So now also, this is going to be an area that might look a little bit more familiar. For example, for those of you who've watched videos about Braga, or even my videos, or if you've even looked on Google or the internet anywhere, you'll have seen maybe Jardim Santa Barbara, and this is it at night. It's still a fun place, very, very peaceful, chill. There's some energy going on. It's quiet, and in the winter it's a lot quieter than this. So if you are thinking about you want a place that's always active all the time, Braga might not be that place. But I do know for some people, actually, Braga can be a little too hectic for them, and especially when it comes to the tourist season, they really are not fans of how filled the streets can become, even though I would say here in Braga it's nothing in comparison to other places that I've been to visit or even lived in. But there are definitely times of year when this whole area will be completely packed full of people, more for like specific festivals like the White Night or São João, those sorts of things. Anyway, we are back on this main pedestrian walkway. Going up straight this direction, you would get to Café Brasileira. I'm gonna go up this direction, even though it is a little bit quieter, because there is another ice cream place. Not my favorite. A lot of the people here in the local expat community do seem to enjoy it, but it's not my particular, well, instead of cup of tea, cup of gelato. I wouldn't even call it gelato, I'd call it ice cream, and yes, there's definitely a difference between the two. Also, even during the day in this square here, it can be festive and nice and pleasant. People sitting out here at this cafe, getting a bite to eat. There are some, like a couple burger places just down to the left here. Yeah, you see some people sitting over there now. We're not gonna go all the way down there. You have some options for the evening. It's not like a small sleepy little village where there's absolutely nothing at all. But now we're coming to the ice cream place that I was mentioning before. There's always people here. It's very rare that people aren't standing in front of this place. There's always some sort of crowd. Tonight is actually maybe a little bit on the quieter side, but still a fair amount of people. Actually down this way, maybe it's not late enough yet, or maybe it's more of a Friday, Saturday thing, but this corner here can get very, very packed with people because there are a couple of bars here, and you will have people who just stand in front of them and will fill up this whole area. It can be quite fun if that's your scene. But now we are actually behind the main cathedral, the Sé, and you have got some cafes, or actually restaurants, up the road here. There's a pleasant bar that's actually right here. Great sitting out here. And actually there's one restaurant up there, Cante Food and Friends, C-A-N-T-E. Good place, not cheap, but I wouldn't call it crazy expensive, but it's a fun experience. They do some kind of fusion foods, I would say maybe somewhere between Asian inspired with some Portuguese influence and maybe a little Brazilian twist on top as well. But then also another factor, of course, that many people think about when they are going to travel or move will be safety. And it's, again, just after 9, so at this point, to me, walking around with a camera that's on a selfie stick like this, and I'm someone who's extremely cautious and careful. I don't take chances that don't need to be taken. I feel fine. I mean, if I were in maybe a busier area, I'd go with a smaller camera, even though this camera is not so big. But there is a craft brewery up here on the right. You might be able to see. It's called Letreria. And it's actually very pleasant to sit out on their main front deck in the summer. It's really, really pleasant. But as we're coming up here, this area, especially on the weekends, can get completely packed. There are a number of bars here, a couple of restaurants. There's some food, maybe not all the best, but there are some places that really do have nibbles that are quite worthwhile jumping into. And I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but even it's getting a little louder here. In the evenings, you can often find something happening here, especially during the summertime. There are going to be people enjoying sangria, or having some little nibbles, or even at this place here, Dona Petishka, they do petiscos, I guess you could call it, little salty snacks, as well as a steak sandwich. That's one place. Or if you've seen maybe some of my earlier videos from Braga, up here on the corner, you'll be able to find Churrascaria da Sé, and they've got some grilled food, some Portuguese style food, both meat and fish. I would say worthwhile checking out. But next door also, you have a place called Atípica, and what they do is they take Portuguese food and maybe have a little bit of an atypical spin on it. Their bacalhau com natas may be one of my favorites that I've had. It's not traditional, but I really enjoyed it. For those of you who might be less familiar with what bacalhau com natas is, it's salted cod with potato and cream, and it's all just baked together with some cheese on top. It's not for everybody, bacalhau that is, but I do quite enjoy it when it's done well. And so now we're getting up to the kind of main walkway, and maybe what I'll do is I'll walk up just a little bit before going down, so again you can get an idea of what this all looks like at night. It's active, it's festive, there are people, but again, in my opinion, not too many. It's just comfortable enough. This place here, I would say they have some decent burgers, although the pricing, again, not quite where I personally would like it. But also, coming up here on the right, maybe I actually will stop here. They do Italian products and Italian owned, and they do it without some of the chemicals and preservatives and stuff. And maybe what I'll do is just jump in here for a minute, see if they're still open, and grab a sandwich. Buonasera. È possibile un panino? All right, well, I have got my panino in hand. Very nice Italian owners, definitely worthwhile checking out if you ever make your way to this city. But anyway, like I said, before I went into there and had that nice conversation and able to practice a little bit of Italian, it's been a while. Okay, a while. I was just in Italy not that long ago, but still, like, here in Braga, I don't get the opportunity to practice my Italian, and I can really feel that it's gotten worse. Even though I'm not as conversational as I maybe once was, maybe my vocabulary actually has expanded a little bit. But anyway, now we'll go back down to the main archway here, and then I'll make my way home for a little bit of dinner. But one funny thing that actually living here in Braga kind of made me forget about living in Italy was that in Italy, I often feel like you have options to go get small little snacks that could serve as a meal. Like, for example, sandwiches, pieces of pizza, things of that sort of nature. Here you can get some little salted snacks, but they're more like having it with a drink, not really having it on the go to be able to call it a meal or something that can get you through to the next meal. It's just, we're sitting having a little bit of a bite as we go along through that stage of the drinking phase of the evening. But as somebody who doesn't really drink and is not such a huge fan of actually frequenting bars, it's not my type of thing, because it's, I would say, more bar food, fried, depends, some things are baked. But when I was back in Italy, I was reminded, oh yeah, I can go just get a slice of pizza for €2.50. I can get an arancino, or I can get a this, or I can get a that, and spend a couple of euros, and I will be completely satisfied. If you're talking about maybe going to go get a meal at a restaurant, maybe it might be a little bit less expensive here in Portugal, but could you have options to eat? But in Italy, could you go get some things that would feel more maybe like a meal and spend a little less? Potentially, but it wouldn't be like a regular sit-down meal. Actually, this is another Italian-owned location, funny enough. And then up here on the right is actually another Italian-owned location. There are some places here in Braga, but I will say, doing proper Italian food, this place where I got the sandwich from, it would probably be the most typically Italian. The others go more in a modified style for people who would be looking for the flavors or version of Italian food that they would know. But we are now coming through the archway, and I'm Rafael Di Furia. This has been another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter. Thank you for joining me, and an even bigger thank you to those of you who help to make these episodes possible on a monthly basis, the rafaeldifuria.com/Patreon, and the one-time support through the thanks button here on YouTube. Stay safe and healthy out there, and I will see you all next time. Later.